So I have said this in a couple other videos, and so if you've watched some of my videos, some of them are long, so maybe you've not watched all of them. I don't blame you. And so maybe you've missed part of it. So I want to do a video, and I think what I'm going to try to talk about is kindergarten reading language arts for now. So the approach that we take is basically mainly from this book, the author Jessie Wise, and it's Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading. So if you watched the video on all about reading and why I don't typically recommend the pre-reading level, you can watch that if you want. It'll go into more depth, explain why I've come to the conclusion that I've come to. So my oldest went to public school for a while. My second was at home with me for about a year. So we did from 4 to 5. He basically did preschool, or kind of like a loose kindergarten. So he learned how to read and numbers and all those things. And I did a very basic approach. So I'm going to show you, this is the workbook pages from All About Reading, but basically it's the same, or I can use these. Okay. So what I did when my two oldest were in school, she was in kindergarten and he was at home with me. And so he wanted to do school like Sissy. So we made pages similar to this, only I did one whole page. These I put 2 on a page because I wanted him to be able to write, and I put it in this slip so that we can write on it over and over and over. So I printed an alphabet to each page, and then at the public school that they were going to, or she was going to, they had like a little chant. So it would be like AA airplane, or AA apple, BB baby, CC cactus, that sort of thing. And so I asked our teacher to write down A to Z, the pictures that they were using for each one. And so I printed those just as reinforcement for home. And so that's what the kids and I did. So we did the big letter, the capital letter, and the lowercase letter. And so we would say AA apple, and then we would just work through the alphabet. So while we were at home, I would have them color the page, and then basically over time we just had a book. I can't remember if I stapled it together or if I three ring hole punched it and put it in a notebook. I can't remember what I did because that was several years ago. But anyway, so we did that notebook, and then they would be able to tell me the book. A apple, B baby, and they would do the sounds with it. That was free, cheap. Free. It was very easy, required less from me, and it worked. Abram learned his sounds, and then we used a picture book for the same thing. It had the alphabet, and we read that, and then we slowly started using the Jessie Wise book, and he was reading. It was so basic, so easy. With Josiah, when he was about 3-4 years old, I started All About Reading pre-level with him. You can go back and watch for that explanation. And I thought it would be okay to take a longer approach because he had a long time to do it. And then I read Jessie Wise's book on education, drawing a blank. I think it's The Well-Trained Mind, and it's a very big book for how to homeschool, the whole thing. And she really encouraged you to get your kid reading fast. And she said, if they're not reading fast, you're reviewing too much. And I was like, oh no, that's what we were doing. So anyway, so that's a very basic approach. So that is kind of what we did with Anna and Abram, and loosely what we did with him. We made an alphabet book, but in All About Reading, they did 26 pages, capital, 26 letters, lowercase. And then after you've done all of those lessons, like 52, you then do the third portion where you learn the sounds. So that approach, in my opinion, is too long. I think you should do capital A, little a, the sound. And the way that Jessie Wise does it is she actually, which I've not done this with any of my kids, I like the idea, but she actually takes the approach of you do all the vowels and you do it in a poem, and then you do all of the consonants in a poem. So she'll say B stands for bat. C stands for k in k, cat. D stands for D in dog. Okay, sorry for my southern accent and my font or my sounding out, but you get the picture. So I really think I'm gonna reach out in a group and see if anyone's already done it, but I would love a page with a bat and a B and a cat and a C and a dog and a D all the way down, because that would be my book. And I think that would be absolutely the perfect approach, because it takes, the only reason I didn't do it was because she was in public school and she already had what she was memorizing and I didn't want to mess her up. But I think this would be the perfect approach. The reason I got the pre-reading book you fell. Now I've got to decide if I can edit this out or restart and do the whole thing. And the question is, will I remember what I've said? Okay, well, if you're still watching the video, you can tell what I decided, because I decided that life is too short to redo the whole video. I did that a couple times with my last video for different reasons. I either talk too much or I forget what I'm saying, and I had to reshoot that video a couple times. Reshoot, that sounds like, I don't know, bougie or something. I'm literally recording on my phone in my schoolroom. So anyways, I did that one a couple of times because I want it to be really good for you all, and I hate having long videos because I know that that's less likely for busy moms to watch. But I want it to be like we're sitting down to a conversation. But I don't want to re-record all of this because I was sad that I re-recorded my last video because I said some things that I wish I would have said, like about the notebook. So I'm just gonna go with it. I'm so sorry that I knocked my phone over. I think I tapped it, or there's probably a kid running by and they flipped off of my very sophisticated stand that we have, also known as books. Okay, so yeah. So my other thing was that I was saying was, I think that doing this would be the perfect approach because they're memorizing. It has a rhyme to help you remember. It's doing, big letter, little letter, and the sound. The reason I bought pre-reading is because all the workbook pages were already done for me and it was all cute. And I thought, oh, that's great. So I have the old one from Anna's public school that I could use. Like, I have that. I just didn't want to because I didn't want to remake another one because it is time consuming. Like I just showed you with editing, I am busy. I have cooking and kids to take care of and a husband to go visit with in a second. And so I'm sorry, I want these to be good for you all, for anyone that's watching, and I want it to help you for homeschool wise, but I am very busy and I would love, I like to just sit and talk because that's easy recording. Whereas when I'm in the kitchen and I'm baking and there's lots of things involved and kids in and out, I love that, but that is harder to record and my kitchen has to be clean. So you get homeschool for now, but I do love talking about homeschooling. For anyone that knows me in the real world, this helps so that I don't talk to those people too much because I'm sure they're tired of listening to homeschool, except for my new, not new friends, but my friends who are younger, who are just homeschooling. And so they like those conversations and they encourage these videos. One friend in particular, she knows who she is. But yeah, I make videos because she's like, I want to see that curriculum. And I'm like, okay. Okay, back on topic now that I've wasted 2 of your minutes. Maybe you should grab a cup of coffee. Okay, so I think I showed you basically print things, memorize the sounds, do it quickly, and then jump into some type of phonics. My recommendation is only the most common first sound. I would do that first. I would have them reading probably half of this book. Once they get to half of this book, she recommends starting spelling. So that for us would be all about spelling 1. and they practice sounds, and they practice all of the sounds. So I think that that would be an appropriate time to start saying like G, G, J, instead of just G. Because that way they won't get confused. And some other people have other opinions about that. That's fine. I just think it does set up a little bit of confusion. I tried a little bit with Josiah, and I only taught him a couple of letters, all of their sounds. And now when he sees them, he like tries all of them instead of just using the first one. So right now, all of the curriculum that he's doing is the most common sound, so he doesn't need it yet. So again, my opinion, but half of this book, and then I would do All About Spelling 1. And I do recommend All About Spelling, but I cut it off. I'll do another video on that. I cut it off like at level, maybe I'll do the first 4, and then I do IEW Phonetic Zoo. So that's another thing. So jump into All About Ordinary Parents Guide, or I jump into to Hooked on Phonics reading. And I shared this in the other video, but for Josiah, because he didn't know all of the sounds when he started reading, this helped him remember the sounds, and then this breaks it up. This puts it together, and they're using the same words that Jessie Wise started with. So I felt like this was kind of a gentle approach, and then we'll go back to Jessie Wise. And this, I think I shared before too, that it has little stories like in it there, and there are little books over there. And that is actually, if he gets bogged down and he's like, oh, I don't want to read, and he sees that there's a story at the end of the lesson, then it motivates him to go ahead and do it, or if he knows that there's another book coming. So basically, keep it simple. Jessie Wise says 15 minutes a day. We do a little bit longer because we're months into it now, but she says in the beginning, start with 15 minutes, and she says every single day, and I second and third that. The little bit of consistency every single day is way, way better. So I would learn your letter sounds with something simple and basic. I would start reading. I would read as quick as possible. Then if you want to start working on rhyming or whatever, that's great. Another one, McGuffey's Eclectic Primer, however you say it. Primer, I've heard primer and primer, so whichever one, but the Eclectic Reader, so cool. I shared in the other video, we've seen this at the Appalachian Museum, and we just were watching Waltons, and this is the book that they were using. So we love that. We think it's really neat, but it's a very simple, basic little reader that's great for practicing if you need something else. Okay, next, and then I'm gonna be done. So we're almost done. For writing, I didn't think about it a lot in the beginning when I was teaching kids reading, but now my second kid was left-handed, so it was a little bit more difficult to teach him letters. But with this, what we do is I show him the correct way to make an A, and then he traces the correct way to make an A, big A, little a, and so we practice that, and then he can do it in a marker on the pages that I made that I showed you earlier. So he practices with that. We do it in this. Again, this is free. This is very basic, very simple. You can also there's about 1 million different handwriting things out there, but again, this is easy. This is free. It is time consuming for you because you're sitting here watching him do it, but I promise that if they get this down, and if they don't like writing, do not make them write. It's enough for them practicing here, in my opinion. I would just have them practice in the sand, and then as they want to write, have them do it in marker, and then eventually graduate to pen. But that was just something that's enjoyable and free. You just have to be careful because little kids will dump it. So we used salt and a little food dye, and it's lasted forever. So yeah, I feel like that's all we do for reading and language arts. We will start, I think it's language lessons for the well-trained mind. We will start either at the end of the year or we'll wait till first grade. She recommends first grade, so it'll just depend on if he's ready. We do this for catechisms. I was just throwing it in because it was sitting over here. We're not Catholic. I don't know who else does catechisms, but The New City Catechisms is a really cheap book. It's really good, and it's been fun so far. And I'm not sponsored by any of these people, but I'm throwing them all out there. We love the songs by, I think it's Songs for Saplings. I'll try to put it in the description, but Songs for Sapling, those are very catchy, kind of go along with the catechisms, and I think it's really teaching them some biblical stuff. And so we do that. We do our reading, we do our writing, and then we do a little bit of the CC Timeline song, and we do the cards with that. So that is and we do math, but I'm not gonna talk about math in this video. So anyway, so we do math plus the things I just told you, and those are the main meat of what we do for kindergarten. And then we do lots and lots of books. So I hope that this helps somebody out there. This is not super sophisticated. This is very basic, very simple. But I think it shows that you don't have to have an expensive curriculum, and we really can do a lot with very, very little and a very, very short attention span. You know, you can get a good day of kindergarten in a short time. You can break it up throughout the day, you know, reading in the morning, math at lunch, a story at bedtime, and do your songs throughout the day. And it really does. I think that when we think about public school, we think they have to be in their chair for 6 hours, learning for 6 hours, and doing all of these things. And it's not necessary when you're at home. So break it up. You can learn in the evenings, on the weekends, in the mornings, basically whenever it fits your schedule best. Just try to be consistent and do little bits that will slowly build. And before you know it, you'll be doing school for hours, and it'll be hopefully enjoyable.